Hello everyone and welcome back to Pro League as we're going into the last series of the day, and it's going to be an absolute banger between Cypher and Base. And guys, I'll start with you, Wheat, to begin with. I think between these two players, both from the CIS region, we know what they're like. They're very capable of getting to the top side of the EU region in terms of skill and ability, but it should be an absolute close one, what we've seen in comparison to previous matchups.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Cypher maybe a little bit longer legacy than Base, but Base has certainly been around and completely capable. I would say we've had a few back forth matches. Like we've had several 3-0s as well. Again, some games closer than they might seem, but I do think that this series is going to end up being a lot closer in the races than anything else that we've seen today.
And how do you feel, Flea? Because we know what Base is like. We'll talk about Base first to begin with, as this man is definitely the definition of, fighting on his terms. People mistake him for being more of a passive player. Yeah, sure, he is quite a passive player. Not as passive as Dewey or maybe someone like Dramus, but, he has both angles of the spectrum. He can make those great counterattacks when necessary and does choose rightly the right fights and engagements which are necessary to either take the lead or extend the lead. But the only person who can actually match up against him is a player who can adapt well and download the opponent as fast as possible. And it needs to be very early on. And someone like Cypher is definitely more than capable of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Indeed, a bit of a clash of style this time around. I think a good way of summarizing Base is to call him reactionary rather than just passive. He adapts so nicely to the way that his opponent is approaching the game. Typically, he's more reserved. He lets you come to him and then just settles the pace of the game accordingly. But when he needs to be aggressive, when he needs to apply pressure, he can absolutely do it. And that's exactly what he did last time he played Cypher. It was in the stage 4 of Season 1 of the Quake Pro League, and it was actually Base beating his opponent 3-0. So Cypher lost quite badly the previous time he went up against this Russian powerhouse.
I want a follow-up question, Flea, because you mentioned if Base is reactionary, then where would you classify Cypher's sort of play style as?
I mean, Cypher is just one of those guys who plays out of the box. He is very unorthodox. He's one of those players who can almost always find a solution to something extremely hard to get a good read on. He understands the game at such a fundamental level that he can play around pretty much anything. And that is something that I remember years ago, and it was still Cypher versus Rafa fighting for that #1 spot in the world. Rafa was the calculated, the disciplined player who was 5 stats ahead of you, whereas Cypher was the prodigy, the man who just understood Quake at such an instinctive level that he could dance around even the traps that Rafa could lay for him. So
it's just raw talent in a nutshell, really, isn't it? You couldn't really make up with the man himself, but we do have the picks and bans ready to find out exactly how this series is going to pan out in terms of map layout and champions. And it looks like already Awoken will be our first map pick, followed by Molten Falls. And then we do have Blood Run. And interesting to see Molten Falls from Base, because Base and CNZ, I do believe, are teammates on those. So I'm sure there's been a little bit of discussion. But Veil and Corrupted Keep, not really too much of a surprise here with those bans. Cypher, not only is he good on maps like Blood Run, but he's very, very good on Corrupted Keep. Probably as good, if not better, than Razy. And Base decided to ban that straight away.
Yeah, indeed. So we are going to get things going on Awoken, moving into Molten Falls next, and then the decider is going to be Blood Run. So first of all, Awoken Cypher playing the Galena Base, favoring mobility this time around with the Doomslayer, one of the most powerful champions on this map, to be sure. Just that double jump helps you out so much in so many areas of the map. And then Molten Falls, perhaps a bit of a faster paced game, Base running the Anarchy, whereas Cypher will wield the Ranger, and on Blood Run the decider, if it even gets to that, it'll be Nyx versus Visor.
Yep. We will get to that.
We will, yeah, we will
play all three. Yeah, so we're definitely gonna see it all. I kind of love what you're saying about just sort of the clash of styles and looking at sort of the maps and then the champions that they're playing. Anything here that's surprising to either of you?
In terms of their style, like, yeah, it can be completely different. With Cypher, it is just raw talent with mechanics and fundamentals. We know players like Rafa is not as gifted in terms of mechanics and fundamentals, but the fact that he can read his opponent so well, it's his map positioning and his rotation that makes him such a great player. And if he's having a field day in terms of his aim skill, then, you know, he's pretty much laughing at that moment in time. It's pretty much a bonus. But the only problem with Base is the fact that the only people who can defeat Base are the ones who can adapt to him and what he's going to do. And it's a real tough challenge because Base, like Flea said earlier, it's not the fact that he's passive or defensive. He is reactionary. He is one of those players where, you know, he will choose his engagements. He will be aggressive when he wants to be. But on maps like Blood Run, for example, like the very last map out of the 3 in that map pool, it's going to be very difficult for Cypher. Cypher knows that, and what makes it even worse is the fact that Base went for the Nyx, so he can use the Ghost Walk to get away. But Cypher does have the piercing sight with the visor, so if that does come into play, he can look for him, keep an eye on those hourglasses, and making sure he's keeping Base on his toes. And, you know, for an entire 10 minutes against someone like Cypher, that's going to be tough for Base.
Yeah. Absolutely, and with that out of the way, we are about to jump into the game, so we're going to say goodbye to Lethal, at least for the time being. He'll be joining us again after this series, but we are loading up the next match, the last one of the day. Cypher, representing Navi, going up against a player from Russia, Base, representing B100, and this, DJ Wheat, is going to be a spicy one.
I'm really hope that it is. I mean, I would say that CNZ versus Cooler was spicy, but a different kind of spicy than I think that's you bite into the pepper and you didn't know it was going to be that hot. But I think this one is going to be back and forth, a fantastic juggle of skills, and you know, based off of what Lethal was saying and what you said, reactionary is like. Yeah, Base is like water, right? He can flow. He can be ice and be defensive if he needs to. And you know, I am really interested. I mean, you guys have hyped me up now to see how exactly these two are going to clash, and then also how it's going to change from game to game. You know, starting off on Awoken, definitely much smaller map, certainly a lot of chaos in this map, and then how that will change is then we go into Molten and finally Blood Run. So It looks like we're about ready to start. But do you want to throw out a prediction? Are you feel any level of confidence to do that?
I mean, Cypher, just neither of these players really looked all that good in Stage 4 finals, so it is difficult to call. But what I would like to ask, because I know that both of these have a tremendous fan club, chat, make some noise. Who do you want to see take away this final match of the day? I want to see some Cyphers in chat. I want to see some love for Base. Make some noise for your preferred player, because this is an important game.
A very, very important game. And remember that we had some change in Season 2, so a win nets you $150 and a loss of $50, but obviously you want all the money that you can get. It does rack up and bank throughout the season. So here we go. The first engagement is some rockets are exchanged. LG fired from Base as it looks like Cypher is going to put himself into a better position. Again, not forcing the engagement, and neither is Base. And, you know, it was brought up earlier, but I am interested to see how the movement of Base will change. You know, Cypher needs to be thinking about, okay, having the double jump, what does that change? What can my opponent do differently? And it does play a key factor here on Awoken, you know, when someone's playing Doom Slayer. So here we go. Rails exchanged now as well. And I would expect this to be the kind of initial pace that we see here for the opening couple minutes.
Yeah, both players not looking to commit just yet, taking those long-distance rail fights, trying to get the upper hand, and then pounce on their target when the opportunity presents itself. Now Base, in control of that center, the top area of the map. Cypher, more towards the railgun area. Looks like both players at least managed to get all of the main weapons to work with. So no weapon denial going on just yet, and still no committals. Looks like both are eyeing that heavy. Cypher has got the better position of the two, but it will be Base making a move for it. Will he commit all the way? This is pretty risky, but if he lands a bit more damage, Cypher is going to be in trouble. Has to indeed retreat from that one because Base got his stack up.
Yeah, very, very.
He
Oh,
missed it.
so nice. I mean, he's just playing very patiently. He hit that initial rocket and then followed up with the rail, put the first frag on the board. And cypher played that one right, but I mean, you know, you mentioned it. Base is going to be controlling that center, and it's going to be really easy with the champion that he's got. So once again, grabbing the heavy, despite being in a disadvantaged spot, too, fighting in that base, still managed to dodge all of that damage from cypher. And now cypher is going to be fighting from behind here, as he is really struggling to find any type of stack.
That previous engagement, that's just what I was referring to when I said unorthodox. Cypher going for the horizontal rocket jump onto the Mega almost worked out beautifully, but unfortunately for him, he fell just short and allowed Base to get that rail off. But now Cypher finally starting to retaliate a bit. The Belarusian player has got a bit of a stack advantage. I like the attempt at a sneaky rocket jump rather than just going up the bounce pad, because he knows that Base is eyeing that position. The rail knocked him straight back down. Cypher doing most of the damage so far, slowly working his way back into control.
Yeah, I think cypher, if he plays slow and kind of methodical in the way that he is, you know, has the potential to, you know, to not only get the frag back, but regain some control here. You know, Base, just as you guys said, he is adapting to cypher. And if cypher wants to take the middle, he's taking the outside, and he's finding where he can hit those spot shots, or, you know, where he can double jump to get a better position on his opponent. So a lot of respect here from both these players, a lot of very silent movement to try to you know, fake out their opponent, make them think they're in one place. So I like to see what we're seeing here. And here we go, fight over heavy. And Base knows that he's down there, lands that first rail, looking for the follow-up rail. And we do see cypher walk away from that just a little bit better off. And he picked up that heavy. So there's the next rail, and now Base in a danger zone, 25 points of health. All cypher needs to do, well, he for a moment there just breathe on him, but that wasn't going to happen. We're 5 minutes in, another great rail, and what is Base going to do now? Because oh my gosh,
what?
I didn't see what happened there. I don't know how that happened, but cypher left the building.
I was on Base's point of view as well. I didn't quite catch it, but somehow cypher plunges into the cold, watery depths of Awoken, putting himself at -1. Now that is something you don't see every day, especially after that beautiful attempt at a comeback. Wait, I don't know if you've noticed, but cypher's at 66% railgun accuracy, and then that happens. That is awful.
Too bad. That is too bad. Well, he's going to go at it. It's not going to let him stop from potentially getting a frag here. Both very low. Base with a little bit more armor. Base going to back off just a little bit, find an angle for a rail shot. Not prioritizing health and armor because he knew that mega health was about to spawn, and is in a good spot once again in the middle. Fires some rockets off. That's going to let cypher know exactly where he's at. And these rails that are coming out from Base are equally phenomenal and just hitting exactly when he needs them to. 1 to -1. There is yet another one, and the heavy. I still don't know how cypher left the map. I just saw his red outline going places that they should not have been going, and that was the end of that. But he now has a 2 frag deficit that he's got to make up.
Absolutely. Next major item will be heavy. Cypher already on the better position of the two, but he's lacking the stack as well as the weaponry, and Base is going to make advantage of it. Cypher has to use those totems to stay alive, but he's hurting. He's not going to be able to live much longer. Base, another frag on the board.
I really like sort of that insertion from Base there in that last frag that started off there with the LG. We're going to have another battle here at the heavy. LGs do come out, and cypher is going to get the better end of that one, coming out with, unfortunately, you know, low health and armor, but grabs that heavy and immediately gets back up thanks to a bubble and a totem. And he's now got 3 frags separating these two, but cypher, I completely forgot what I was going to say, and that's a byproduct of getting old as well. But we're more battling here in the center, as cypher is just going to plus back out of there, and the rail does come out. Cypher now with just 50 points of health. Is he going to be able to find an opportunity to control this map like he desperately wants to?
Loving the rocket jump right there. Didn't get him anything in the end, but almost catching a glimpse of base, and that would have been a beautiful rail to work with as well. Now Cypher, he's got 2 of the totems up already. Not the 3 he needs to get that overstack, that mega in his pocket to drop whenever he wants to. That's gonna get a bit of information there though, because he's taking 40 points of damage running into it. Cypher should have a pretty good idea of where his opponent is at.
He's going to switch back over to base here, just kind of watching Cypher base now with only 24 armor. He's definitely in a position that Cypher wants him to be. This is a fraggable position if the right engagement is made. But there are those pot shot rails. Cypher, though, answering back with one of his own. Now base still in that danger zone. And, you know, with base with 0 stack, and there it is. There's the frag, the rocket into LG combo. Previously, base with the stack control, you know, was using the double jump and some of the momentum from that to kind of get that initial salvo off on Cypher. We saw him do it with the LG. We saw him help him land a couple amazing rails. But when he's running around without armor and out that full health stack, those options are limited. And, you know, that's where Cypher, I think, needs to have the advantage to potentially tie this one up. Is still 1-3. We're about a minute and a half left to go, Flea. And, you know, base kind of like playing for his life here. And Cypher, you could see how he's just turned up the tempo of the game significantly.
Cypher does have to be careful with all these rocket jumps though, because he is doing a lot of self-damage. He had both major items and he's ended with basically default stack to work with when pushing around that corner, and now all the pressure is on him. It's Navi Cypher. Not only does he have to find base, but he also has to find a way to deal with that double jump. He's lacking mobility in comparison to the champion that his opponent has picked. I think he knows where base is at, but as you mentioned yourself, base is like water. He's slippery. Is not going to give up any angles for free, and Cypher really has to step things up right now. Half a minute left to work with. He's gonna hear his opponent. This should be a frag for Cypher. 1 more to go, Weez. Can he do it?
Well, he's going to grab the Mega and go on the hunt. Less than about 25 seconds left to go, and this is going to be a tough one. We're going to all be watching the location of base. A great rail. That is what base needs to do. In a map like this, you know, you can get from one side to the other in 2 winks. So there's one last light picked up, and he sees him. He caught him out of the corner of the eye. He misses that rail, and that, unfortunately, is going to be it. 2-3. And base takes it by a hair. A great last moment frag from Cypher. But again, you know, mobility actually ended up coming up quite a bit in that particular matchup, Flea. And mobility was ultimately what allowed base to clinch that victory as well. Also should be said, that last defensive rail he made, huge, right? Like just completely stopping your opponent's momentum like that. Hitting those shots, that's almost as great as hitting a frag. That can solidify a victory for you. So well done by base, and nice try by Cypher.
Yeah, there, I don't know if you caught it, but we were just able to watch the suicide. Cypher came out of the teleporter over at Rockets, and he tried to cut the corner and jump on by next to the Rocket side of the map, and he just kind of bounced off the edge and fell off. That didn't help him in the end either, since it came down to a 1 frag game. But indeed, as you said, that one rail, Cypher rocket jumping up over at the railgun doorway, and then just the rail knocking him straight back down. And that forces Cypher into a position where he's gonna burn more time. He has to rocket jump right back up. In the meantime, base position himself in the center, picks up that small armor, and at that point, base is actually outstacking Cypher. So then it was just disaster, and Cypher unable to get any more damage out when he needed to. Well played, base indeed.
Yeah, I mean, in some alternate universe where that suicide didn't happen, we would still be in overtime there. And I mean, it's just like crazy to think how much momentum was lost there, because I feel like when Cypher was in the control that he was looking for, you know, base was doing a great job, but that's where Cypher felt obviously more comfortable in that position. But he's only spent a couple of minutes of that entire game in that position versus base, who, you know, pitched a tent and had a hammock up and had a nice drink in the center there and played it very, very nicely. So we're going to be moving on to Molten Falls next.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we were talking about, right? The reactionary playstyle, base setting up, center of the map, and just listening into what Cypher does, reacting accordingly, dishing out a lot of damage, keeping Cypher at bay, and then whenever things just got a little bit too hot underneath his feet, he just dipped right on out and repositioned himself. So base played that expertly, but as you said, second map is coming right up, Molten Falls, entirely different, much larger map. Long hallways, plenty of lines of sight for that railgun. We're going to see Cypher play the Ranger up against Base on the Anarchy.
Yeah, I mean, based off of both of these players' aim in the last matchup, I'm very excited for Molten Falls for all the reasons that you mentioned. You know, both of them are hitting their shots. They do not look cold at all. So I expect this one to be equally close.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we are once again in for a treat as we are starting things off on Cypher's point of view. Getting himself the Mega. Base will pick up heavy. 5 seconds of a delay, give or take. That might already open up something for the player who gets control after a first engagement. Might be able to secure himself a proper rotation because both of these champions have ways of getting around the map quickly.
Yeah, they do. Wow. Kicking things off this map with a rail like that as he just blazes through and flicks over a perfect shot. Now going to wait for that Mega. He's got it. Heavy is up. Anarchy is over there. Base is going to... Is he going to grab that? No, not yet. We're going to wait it out here as Cypher is playing this one very slow. He's going to wait, and he doesn't see Base anywhere. He's got to be wondering, other than that one rail, like, where is my opponent? But he also delayed that, so he's going to be able to control both of these if he can, and he thinks he's got an idea where he's at. There's a rocket jump up, immediate reaction from Base, and another great rail with some LG follow-up as well. There we see the... Oh my God, orb come out, and a beautiful first frag coming out from Cypher. Excellently done.
That is the power of the orb. You land that opening rail, you know you've got the better stack, you know your opponent's hurting because he is a light, squishy champion who doesn't have that much to work with, and then you just go in hyper-aggressively. Even if you take damage coming out of the orb, doesn't really matter when you're in such a dominant position. So Cypher, making perfect use of that ability. Doesn't look like he wants to chase more right off the bat, he's just going to prioritize the item, the Mega. Doesn't want to give anything up to Base.
Yeah, he's got to know. I mean, that he's still got a nice little separation here between our major item timing, and he knows he's in a great spot right now as he just rains rockets down from above and gets that heavy 2-0. And I don't know if we see Cypher continue out like this. This could be a rough game for Base. Like, Cypher looks like he means business. I think he knew that he potentially should have won that first map. That there was a big possibility for him to do that. He is playing in top form right now, and with the 2 frag lead, there's another great rail. Is going to follow up. He does with the LG 3-0.
Rockets from Belarus shining through once again as Cypher is not only securing all the frags, but also every single one of the major items. Base has had nothing except for that starting heavy that he spawned next to. Every other major has been going to Cypher ever since. LG on LG, Cypher has the better stack, landing more damage as well. 75% rail as well, still in the early stages of course, but excellent nevertheless.
Yeah, that's, you know, with 4 shots, that's still super impressive, especially considering the shots that he's made here. 3-0, again, just complete dominance of these items on the map. And I mean, you'd think that a character like Anarchy would not have any problem there in the, you know, in the run, but Cypher's chase has just been phenomenal. It looks like Anarchy is, you know, like my speed. It doesn't matter right now because Cypher is just all over him. So 3-0, once again, all of the items going to Cypher. And what does he do, Flea, right? Like, what? Base isn't necessarily hitting those shots. Cypher's hitting those shots. There's one. But does he just chip away and try to at least get one of these major items back? There it is.
Well, Yep, exactly. Landing the LG and then a fraction of a second before the Mega spawns. Beautiful rail coming through as well to secure himself the frag. Cypher though, that's an excellent shot. This should guarantee him the heavy. Okay, he's gonna go in for this one. He knows.
Wow!
Oh my god! I was fully expecting Cypher to switch to the machine gun weed for like the last bullet or two. Nope.
Nope.
Railgun. The
Yeah,
man, it's style. That's what it is.
I mean, style and confidence, right? Oh, and base with some confidence of his own. Check this rail out, and it's 4-2. I mean, great play by both players. This is absolutely the best series that we have seen so far today. There is another frag coming out by Cypher, but you know, base did answer my question a little bit. You followed up with that too, is right? Hitting those shots, getting some safe damage off, and then finding an appropriate time to be able to, you know, come back and just kind of deal whatever damage to get the frag. Fight over the mega health here, and we're going to see Cypher actually leave that one. But the bigger question is like, yeah, you can do that. Base is completely capable of doing that. It takes time, it takes patience, and with a 3-flat frag lead, you kind of have to consider the clock in every decision that you're making.
Oh yeah. I also love the positioning from base at the previous engagement. Cypher kept firing down rockets, expecting base to go for the mega at some point. Base just didn't. He stuck back as far as he could, and he said, you know what, you keep firing your rockets. Every single time you peek, I'm landing 30-something damage on you with the LG, so keep going. And then in the end, Cypher just had nothing left to work with, and he had to evacuate the area with the orb. Even has to give up positioning to base, who now has both of the majors to beat.
Yeah, I mean, and now we see Cypher in basically the opposite spot. The thing is like we have seen Cypher just absolutely nailing the shots that he needs to nail while in control. So as long as he can keep that up, and we've got an Anarchy who is mad and coming after him, a rail to put him down to 5 points of health. Both these players hurting pretty bad. It looked like base was actually on the hunt. However, you know, there's after a certain amount of time, you know, your opponent's picked up a few health bubbles, maybe picked up a light, so he stops that assault. But base, he is at the point where it's, you know, he's got to be the aggressor on this, and that's not necessarily the best way to play this one. Cypher baiting his opponent out, landing a beautiful rail, repositioning with the orb. We're going to try to follow up with the rocket. Not going to happen, but the mega is there. The LG battle is going to actually stop between these two, and as base turns around the corner again, I mean, I just cannot believe these rails that Cypher's hitting. They're just insane.
Cypher right now 59% railgun versus base's 55, so both of these players are just tremendously accurate with the railgun. Lots of shots again being exchanged left and right, but it is Cypher who is railable. Base is not, especially now after picking up that mega health. And I think that base, this is about the time where he's gonna start closing the net. He knows the time is starting to run out. He can't just keep cycling the items forever. He's got himself a decent stack to work with. He knows he's doing better than his opponent. So now he's going to start setting some of those traps that he's well known for.
Yeah, it is interesting. He's got the stack, but he just needs to get some action going, and could give the opportunity for Cypher to pick up at least one of these, and he does. There is the mega. Cypher just kind of like screaming by base there. He's actually going to make it over to the heavy as well. A beautiful rocket that stops him at or tries to use the orb to follow it back up, but that was hugely advantageous for Cypher, who forces base to fall back, and that's not what he needs to do in a 3-frag deficit.
Absolutely, especially not with just 2 minutes left to go, because that's the main consequence of that rocket. Base now has to spend time getting some more resources, while Cypher can just go straight for the mega, and the rockets are solid as usual. Base will drop yet another frag. If he doesn't get himself that third frag within, say, 20 seconds or so, I'm going to call this one in favor for Cypher.
Yeah, I'll second that call if you do. It's definitely getting down to the That another great rail. It definitely is getting down to that time. Thought he was going to follow up with another one. Decides to pull out the tri-bolt for a little bit of damage, and base with just a smidge of armor and a little bit of health is going to have to be on the retreat again. You need a stack to be an aggressor, and without a stack, you're just not going to be able to make up the time. Tries to go in for another kill at that dire orb, and is not going to happen. But the shotgun blast to just devastate base and leave body parts all over the arena. 7-2, 1 minute left. Are you calling it, Cleve?
I'm gonna call it. 5 frags up against Cypher, who's playing like this. Make it 6 every single time that base is showing signs of life. Cypher is instantly there to shut that down, whether it's with a rail or a well-placed rocket. He's giving his opponent 0 opportunities to get back into the game.
Yep, it's like kind of a different way of playing defensive, and is working out. LG to potentially bring us last frag. No, actually, base is going to pick up with another rail. They tried to exchange, but it doesn't happen. 8-3, but as you know, there's just no time left for base to make up the rest, so he can and go to sleep knowing you got that one extra frag against Cypher, but that is going to tie us up here in the series, and we're going to find out who will clinch it in our third and final game. There it is, the buzzer. 8-3 is the final score there in favor of Cypher.
Yeah, absolutely. What a series already, DJ Wheat. 1-1. I think you were absolutely right when you called it earlier. This has been the best series we have seen all day. I don't think any other matchup compares. Yes, we've had some really good and close games leading up to this. Nosa versus The Hang was another really tight one at times, but this is just next level. Both of these players, their aim, their movement, their plays, it is so on and accurate and to the point. This is just a treat.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 2-3, 8-3. The 8-3 a little bit wider, but I mean, think about the shots we saw. Like, think about some of the plays that we saw. A great game, super entertaining. There we just saw what was arguably one of the best frags of the game with the orb into the finish up the rail with just a few hit points remaining. Nicely done. And now we go on to Blood Run, which, wow, a map with a lot of history, a map that I think might trigger chat based off of the play style of base. But if you thought that the last map was high energy and very chaotic, I mean, I would suspect that we're going to see things slow down a little bit here as we go into Blood Run.
I would expect the same thing. Both players know what is on the line, right? This is the decider. Whoever wins this one takes home the entire series. And of course, that nice extra bit of cash that it's all about. We've dropped the points. It's all about the money these days. So both of these players are very driven to win. And I do agree with you. I think we're going to see, at least towards the beginning of the match, a bit of a more passive opener, much more cautious, much more restrained play style from both of these players.
But I mean, at the same token, right, like opportunities to change it up, maybe not so much on the base side, but on the Cypher side. Here we see our results or some stats so far. 53% Railgun. I think he ended that last one with 55. So game one, just a little bit below that one. And currently 8-3 on that. Oh, I guess that is just the last map. My bad. Yeah. Thought that was cumulative. My bad. My error. My error.
It's cumulative at the end. Once we're done with all the maps, we get to see the total stats, but that was indeed for just the previous map. But now,
I got you baited, Flea. Yeah, it's okay, though.
The last map is going to be Blood Run, DJ Wheat. We're going to see Visor, so of course, the information champion supreme.
Yeah.
The peer side go up against Nyx. Tremendous mobility. We know that base loves that champion. And Blood Run, both of these players are extremely familiar with this map.
Yeah, and both players have shown different styles as it comes to this map, right? I mean, there is kind of an age-old legacy behind CIS players and Blood Run, and how it would make some people so mad at the way that they would play this map. But I mean, like, to me, that's also kind of the beauty of Quake, right? That you can have one map that is so chaotic, in your face, space. There's nowhere to run. And then you can have a map like Blood Run. Not always everyone's cup of tea, but still really just goes to show how dynamic a game like Quake can be.
Absolutely. And once again though, chat, feast your eyes. This will be the last game of Blood Run you're going to see on the Quake Pro League for quite some time, because the map's taking out of the pool next week as Base gets a blazingly fast start, just absolutely throwing caution to the wind, Wheat, and rushing himself into the battle with nothing but the starting shotgun.
Yeah, and it paid off, I guess, which is really interesting because I thought we wouldn't see an opening frag for a while. I think I'd want to be a visor in the lead with, the ability to get the information that I need to sort of hold on to that. So this is really interesting. This wasn't the start that I was expecting, and I'm curious to see if that's going to change the entire pacing and tempo of this particular map.
Base now definitely out of control. Did Cypher just mess up the jump?
Yeah.
I saw that from Base's point of view, so I figured that is what happened. Now he has to race on down to Mega. Will still be able to secure both of the major items as Base. Very reactionary player. We've mentioned it time and time again. He's just gonna sit up here, keeping his escape routes open. Doesn't want to expose himself to any damage right now. He's waiting for those small health bubbles and the small armor just so he can get his Ghost Walk back up and get that base stack of 170 points before he ventures out into the rest of the map.
Yeah, and certainly now we're back to the pace that I thought that the map would open with. I think it was just a really interesting set of spawns we got there at the start, but
yep.
Base has the lead, and that is not gonna make Cypher feel great, even with 1 minute and 45 seconds. It's not the place that you want to be here on Blood Run. So Base gives away his location there to Cypher, throwing out a couple rockets, none of them really doing damage, and you can see the slow crawl, and this is where things go from like 120-minute BPM drum and bass song down to like the chill tempos of a 45 BPM beach house track that some DJ is dropping. And again, this is like, it's so interesting because a lot of people could sit here and say, God, now we're watching boring Quake, but you're really not. You're watching actually like a very almost cerebral level of Quake that, yes, has a lot to do with defensive and running and making your opponent think you're one place, and then of course landing the shots on top. So it might be this way for the remaining 8 minutes, but it is going to be interesting to see what the final result of this is going to be.
Absolutely, and I do just think that Base's opening move, as you mentioned, had a lot to do with the spawns. It was a favorable spawn for him. He had that starting shotgun, and I think he just realized, you know what? I push in, if I take damage, I'm just gonna use my Ghost Walk, get out of jail free, and I know that I've got resources to fall back on, I've got the teleporter to escape through, so I just rush in, I've got my failsafe, and hopefully I can do a ton of damage, and that's exactly what he did, getting himself that quick, early opening frag, and now all the pressure is on Cypher. He has to find his opponent. Cypher holding on to that piercing sight a bit, doesn't want to burn it, and then have to wait another half a minute before he can pop it again. He wants to hang on to the ability up until he forces Base into the Ghost Walk, because then he can track his opponent while she is invisible.
I mean, the amount of walking that is happening here is just that, like, this is a Quake game. You don't see this much walking, but again, it's about that positioning. It's about not letting your opponent know where he is at. Now, Base has been, it's kind of funny because if you imagine, well, obviously Base cannot see his outlined opponent, but I just feel like he is reacting based off of audio cues that he's hearing, where shots are coming from, etc. And he is staying out versus Cypher, who is obviously just looking for his keys. They're somewhere, and Base was his keys. So here we go. He did finally hit a rail, and Base is like, okay, wow. Oh, nice rocket. Another one coming in. The LG does come out, and there's the Ghost Walk, and Base is going to say, I want none of this. He lands the rail as it was anticipated by Cypher. He misses his, and we are about equal stacks. But now Cypher does know where his opponents are, so we're going to go back to the slow pace. So they're going to walk around the corner or kiss. Nice rail down to 25 points of health. And what can Cypher do?
As far as Cypher is concerned, this is all about the rail at this point. That is going to be the weapon that he needs to make the comeback. It's a hit scan weapon. The damage is instant. You don't have to wait. You're not giving your opponent any room to dodge or move out of the way. And all he needs to do is hit 2 of those in a row to take down Base at this stack. So Cypher is just looking for an angle. And Base is acutely aware of this and just wants to stay hidden. Doesn't want to give Cypher any opportunity to land that kind of shot.
I hope you guys like this hallway because we're going to be seeing it. If you want to think about maybe some furniture that would look nice in here, a poster you could put on the wall. But actually, now we have Cypher finding his opponent again, just looking for an opportunity to do that. A rocket bounces him up into the corner, completely stopping his momentum. And guess what? It's going to give Base the opportunity to reposition here in his second favorite hallway now. Is going to make his way back up to his favored room. But I mean, and let's talk about why it's such a great room, right? You can hear your opponent coming from the jump pad. You can hear your opponent picks up the heavy. You can hear if he's coming from the back room. It is a great spot to be in because just from audio cues alone, you get so much information on what you do.
This is exactly why Nyx is such a strong pick on this map. You said it towards the beginning of the map, Wheat. You were like, we're 1 minute 49 seconds in, and this is not where Cypher wants to be. Well, we're 6 minutes 20 in, it hasn't changed a thing, but this time Cypher finally catches Base off guard, lands the opening damage, uses the piercing sight to counter the Ghost Walk, and gets himself the frag. Now, Cypher needs to stabilize. That's the first order of business, because he is outstacked. Base is going to get the heavy. Cypher now needs to do what Base did to him for 6 minutes up until he feels ready and in fighting shape once more.
Yeah, and I mean, tied up and with Base with the stack advantage, right? Like, I still kind of feel like Cypher now automatically, even in a tie game, has a little bit more of an advantage, right? He's got his ability that he can pop, and there he pops it right there. Sees where his opponent's at. It's going to give him the opportunity to fire a little bit more here. I don't think he did a whole lot, if anything, right there, which was unfortunate. And it landed with a nice rail. And this is where it's got to be pretty frustrating for Cypher, right? Like, think about how much work he had to do to finally be the cat to take out the mouse that was Base for that frag. But Base now, right, he's actually playing the aggressor. And that's got to be a little frustrating because you'd think that he would want to continue to kind of, you know, be hiding, be playing a little bit at a slower tempo now. So just an interesting matchup overall. Excited to see where this is going to go now.
Base very clearly heard that ability being used. He knew the piercing sight was popped. Just stayed in hiding for a bit longer. He's cycling together a lot of these major items though. Cypher pushing in aggressively. It's LG on LG. Cypher will be the first one to leave the area, but Base is plenty hurt himself. Heavy's about to spawn. Around 5 seconds. Base has got the better positioning, but Cypher isn't gonna leave it at that. Beautiful rocket. Base in trouble. Will get Ghosthawk back.
God, I mean, he's going to be kicking himself. That's the second rocket jump that he's missed today for that heavy, and that gave his opponent the item. You know, at around that 8-minute mark, I hope that he is not looking back and, you know, thinking about that moment right here, but in the back hallway, Base trying to make his way into the room where Cypher resides. That was just crazy unfortunate. That's where I would have full on tilted, bro. I would flee. I would have just been like, I lost. Cypher's a lot better. But wow, that's crazy.
I mean, Cypher, he's been through all the motions 100 times over. He is a tried and tested veteran, a champion of Quake. He's not going to let something like that get to him all that much. But of course, he is being outstacked right now. Good use of the piercing sight right there. Base had no clue that Cypher was waiting around the corner with that ability active. And it allowed the Navi player Belarus to land a meaty little rocket right there.
Yeah, I mean, very equal. There, the rocket jump up to the armor. It is grabbed, and now Base is going to use that as an opportunity to try to track down Cypher. And here out of the teleporter, ooh, a little bit of self-damage there with that second rocket, not putting him in a great spot. He's safe from a rail, but now he's not. Down to 15 points of health in this back hallway. Is Base going to pick up the aggression here? We are now in sudden death, and Cypher finds himself in a pretty bad spot here as Base has the stack.
One rail will be all it takes. Cypher now managing to put himself on 100 points of health, but Base is there with the rockets! Cypher, he assumed that he could drop down, take the small armor, and then just disappear through the teleporter. But unfortunately for him, the rockets, Base pre-firing, reading his opponent perfectly and finishing it off beautifully as well. Congratulations, Base. It'll be Cypher dropping the series 2-1.
Yeah, surprising. I mean, not surprising. Base totally capable of doing it. The last matchup, how different would that have been if he wouldn't have given away that heavy and would have grabbed it? I mean, we could play the what if game all day long, but it's hard not to look at that moment in time and say to ourselves, like, that was a pretty crucial moment as we went into the final minute and then sudden death. Base knew that he was at a health and armor advantage. I think he also knew, and was piercing sight down at that point? I think it was.
Could very well be.
Yeah, but wow. Great game. GG's to Base.
I mean, as you mentioned, right, any Quake match, it is just a string of these vital moments, and who knows it better than our co-caster who we're inviting back on screen, Lethal. Welcome back, as he's joining us to discuss this beautiful series that we just watched. How does that finish make you feel?
Sad. It was the best series of the day, no doubt about that. And, you know, we know what Base is like. He abuses that nail room like no end. It's the best room to, you know, abuse in terms of like the audio cues. But it was the rotations and the routine Base had. You know, we picked up straight away. But, you know, if you like that narrow hallway with the hourglasses and the health orb, you expect to see it quite often. Normally, Base will hang around more towards the staircase of LGs, change things up a little bit. But, you know, again, what we said earlier, the amount of work Cypher had to put in just to get that one frag on the board. But commiserations to Cypher, but in the end, Base had a feeling that at some point, if he does push away, he will drop down for that light, which he has done. As you can see there, gets taken down. It could have gone either way. It was cat and mouse, I think, right from the 1 minute mark onwards. And we expected it to happen. It is Base's style. And he had no reason really to push. You know, he had to wait a very long time for his opportunity to try and regain a stack or chip away at Cypher. Cypher did get that first frag, but there's a little room left for Base to actually make that comeback happen. But look at the damage, so small. Only 1650 is the maximum damage in that game, but it was only 14 damage between the both of them. As you can see, the stats there, 47 items total for Base and 43% rail.
Impressive.
Very good series indeed. Yeah, impressive, as you say. Both of these players, I mean, we mentioned it, right? At the end of map 2, they were just hitting every shot.
Yeah.
Both of them would show up. Rails were exchanged every time. DLG, beautiful. Both of the players were in prime shape, and you could tell it in their aim, positioning, the movement. This was, without a shadow of a doubt, the best series that we've seen all day. Unfortunately for Cypher, those 2 missed rocket jumps, yeah. What if, right? What if he hadn't missed those? Would things have turned out differently? Who knows? No sense fretting about it. He just needs to keep his eyes set to the future and keep his head held high.
That's right, indeed. It was a real shame nonetheless. You know, it's good to see that the last series of the day was the best series nonetheless, but we had plenty more beforehand as we take a look at the results of how things panned out throughout the course of the day and evening, depending on where you're watching from. As you saw there, Razy taking down Sparty 3-0, Chain taking an Effortless 3-0. I think we kind of predicted that. And Cygib versus Dewey. Dewey made it such difficult work for Cygib, but Cygib, with his methodical and calculated plays, managed to take him down. Even the Awoken versus Tox, you know, Awoken has been looking very, very strong, especially at the start of this season. But we had to talk about the last series, Cypher versus Base. It's what we expected. It was very close between both of these players, apart from map 2, where Cypher slowly managed to extend his lead at Molten Falls, but a great day nonetheless.
Yeah, I could say one final comment is that, we got a chance to see CNZ's kind of glory run through the Quake World Championships. And I have to say, CNZ is definitely a player that I am going to make sure I am watching from week to week. There's an incredible amount of potential in him as a player. And I kind of feel like he's on fire a little bit. So curious to see if he'll keep that up through the next few weeks, sort of 11 weeks that we've got here, and what he's going to be able to do with that. But also a good testament to those who are aspiring to play in the Challengers Leagues, right? That you can fight through the bracket, you can practice, and you can earn a shot here in the QPL. So I hope hope you're all out there trying it, because my time's passed. So it's got to be one of you out there.
I think mine is too as well. Well, from it as well. But we will go to the EU standings anyway to see how the standings look after all the matches from today. And as you can see, the Maestro man himself, Razor, is at top of the leaderboard, 6 maps to 0 with that 2 wins. Avec, he does have the 2 wins. We know his match against CNZ was played off air, but you saw there that he actually took down CNZ in their first match. So Avic's looking very, very good to begin with. Benga could also follow through. It depends. He does have 1 match in hand, and so does Base. So we could see them creeping up slowly but surely. But from what we expected so far, Fleet, it's weird seeing Cypher and Kilson at the bottom 4, but it's very, especially Cooler too, but it's very early days. It only just started, and we're in week 2 of 13. So there's not really too much to call here.
Absolutely, and I think that calling it is only going to get increasingly more difficult with the map rotation change that we're going to see starting next week. Blood Run will be out, Veil of Nav will be out, and they will both be replaced by the 2 newest maps, which are Tower of Koth as well as Deep Embrace. And I personally am extremely curious to see how that is going to shake up the current established meta. Are we going to see players who just absolutely don't want to play these maps because they don't have the experience and they just always are going to veto and ban them out? Or are there already players that have really practiced them and they're like, I want to play that because I know that I'm probably going to have an edge on you over this map?
Yeah, very excited for those 2 maps. The meta's going to change dramatically over the course of the weeks because they are 2 new maps. We're going to expect a top-end meta plays in terms of strategies and item pickups, etc. as we go forth. But let's have a look at the Americas region week because, we've seen a few changes here and there, but like I mentioned earlier, it's still early days as of yet. The Hang looking comfortable in the top of the leaderboard, same with Chain. Rafa is down there in 5th, it still has a match in hand, but if Rafa does win his next series 3-0, he'll be the one on the top of the leaderboard. It does seem a bit weird that Rafa's 5th at the moment, but with a match in hand, it's understandable why he's in that position. But pretty much what we expected too.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's exactly kind of what we expected, and I think it will be. We'll see, right? Like, how will the remaining 11 weeks? How are they going to switch things up? I mean, there's no doubt about it on both sides. There's absolutely some sort of like breakthrough, right? Individuals that if they really bring it, that they're going to shake and disrupt a little bit about what you would just kind of expect. And I want to make one comment based off of what Flea said, because if I was going into this next week with 2 new maps and knowing that players potentially will already veto maps that they know that you are good on, or like, I do not want to play player X on, to have that additional map advantage and to be well practiced over other players, this is the next week, right? If especially I was on the lower end of that, I would be putting all my time into the new maps. I would try to get those picked if possible. I think it's an opportunity for some players to kind of, again, shake it up a little bit. And that is an exciting aspect of this upcoming season. So I'm excited to see how that will play out.
Definitely, especially in the Americas region. So, Max has been looking phenomenal. He's only just started, and takes some players a little bit of time to adjust into the Pro League after coming from challenges. But he already made a huge impact. We're going to have to see if the Hang and Rafa continue to be the gatekeepers of the Americas. But final thoughts, guys, of the entire day. Flea, I'll start with you.
I mean, I had a tremendous time. We had some amazing Quake from start to finish. Loved watching and casting it all with you. If there's anything left to be said, it would just be to the chat, to the viewers at home. Keep in mind, Quake Champions is entirely free to play, bro, on Steam Bethesda launcher. So if this tickles your fancy, don't hesitate. Jump into the arena with the rest of us and show us your skills.
And final thoughts from you.
Well, once again, it's great to be here. Quake Sunday is awesome. You know, I used to always call my church the Quake Arena, so I feel like I'm getting a chance to go to church every week right here for the QPL broadcast. Just want to say thank you to everyone that supports Quake, whether you play it, whether you watch it, whether you root for your favorite player, whether you boo for your least favorite player. It's all in the spirit of Quake. What's great is being able to get together for arguably the best genre of esports that exists, Arena FPS. So thanks for coming on Sunday, and we'll see you next week.
Couldn't agree more with both of you. And of course, thanks to Flea and Weeks for being on board with us throughout the entire day. Not only thanks to Casters, thanks to Professor, all the production at PGL, and you, the viewers at home. Without you guys, we wouldn't have these shows or these Pro Leagues made possible. And don't forget, with challenges, we will have more information on that. It is going to be starting on the 26th of September for 9 weeks, but we will be giving you more information over at Quake.com with the schedules and info on that. So for now, from us, from everyone here, thank you so much for watching, and we'll be back same time, same place next week.